special thank you. Can you go back to that? Yeah, to our sponsors who support us. These are the people who come to our in-person conferences, and even though we aren't having them in person this year, they're also supporting us through this series of workshops. And those sponsors are InsureZone, Blue Jay Reviews, Lightspeed, Mythos Technology, Insured Mine, Simply Easier Payments, Encova, Tostin, the Unstoppable Producer product with Mike Stromso, Agave, CoverDesk, Agency Zoom, Agency Revolution, Agency Transformation, Insurance Agent App, and then Assurance Marketing Design Consulting. And you can go to the next slide now. Thank you. Usually Amelia is here to do that part, but she is attending a conference herself right now. Amelia is our Marketing and Events Manager, and I am Jennifer Thompson. We're both with HUG, and we can be reached at the information that you see there. If you ever have anything that's related to the user group, you can get in contact with either one of us. Amelia works from her home in Colorado, and I work from my home in Wisconsin. And you can go to the next slide. We just want to remind everybody that they should check out the HawkSoft User Group website, and it's hawksoftusergroup.org. There's a lot of members-only content that's available there. So members-only content means that you have to log in order to see it. So the very first time you go out there where there's a login, if you don't have one, you'll be prompted to make one. And usually we approve those within 24 hours, and then you can access their letter templates, templates for e-signature, templates for customized lists, and just some other kind of tips and tricks information as well. You can go to the next slide. We also have a Facebook group. So anybody who uses Facebook, I would really suggest that you jump on there and join our Facebook group, because it's a great place to interact with other users. You can post your questions, make comments. There are a lot of files and videos out there that other users have posted and that you can look up. Somebody was asking me the other day if we had any templates for proposals. Well, somebody has posted a sample proposal out there that you could take a look at. So great way to share information with each other.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I just add in something in there, Jennifer?
Yeah, please go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, speaking as a product support specialist here in HawkSoft, if you post any technical issues inside of this specific page, we're never going to reach out to it and see it. So if you need help with HawkSoft, that's my job. Give us a call into product support, and we will go ahead and address that. The purpose of this page is to bounce ideas off of each other. It's not to report any kind of technical issues, like if your HawkSoft printer isn't working, or if you need help with like some sort of a data replacement, because product support does not see this. And so if you need immediate assistance, that's why we're here. You give us a call and we would love to assist you with any kind of technical or usability questions that you might have.
Yep, perfect comment, but great way to interact with each other. And you can go on to the next slide. We're just going, today's training session is going to be on the toolbar of your HawkSoft system. And we're going to talk a little bit on the next slide about the housekeeping items. So everybody has joined in. You all have a button. I'd like you to make sure that you're clicking on your participants button, which is located on the bottom. And then you're also clicking on your chat button. And that'll open up two panels in your screen. The participant panel shows the list of everybody who's here today. And the reason you need to see this is because when you want to ask a question, what we would like you to do is click on the blue raise hand button. So can everybody give that a try right now? Like, try clicking on the blue raise hand button. That means you have a question if you raise your hand. And then after you click on the blue raise hand button, we want you to unmute yourself. So if you have, you'll either have like an icon for a telephone or a microphone. You can click on that and select unmute. Go ahead and do that right now. Everybody can unmute themselves. By default, you are muted, but go ahead and unmute yourself. Let's say hi to everybody. Hi.
Hello.
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 Hi.
All right. After you ask your question, put yourself back on mute. And we really do want to encourage everybody to ask their questions out loud if possible. I know some people don't have the ability with a microphone, and that's fine. Then you can use your chat area to ask questions. But we love we're trying to make this as much like an in-person meeting as we can. And having that interaction where we get to talk In addition to just when you're posting your questions in the chat screen, sometimes we're reading them and we go, we don't quite know what you mean. So having the ability to turn on your microphone and speak and ask the question and elaborate really helps us to answer your questions better. So raise your hands. Also, throughout the session, you might, the presenters may or may not ask you some questions, but there are also some buttons in the participant panel that allow you to answer yes or no. And then there's a little more button that allows you to do thumbs up and thumbs down. So those are some other ways that you can respond to the presenters throughout the presentation. And we are going to be recording this webinar, so if for some reason you have to step away, or if you have to take a call from a customer, again, make sure you're still on mute, but that's okay. We are going to send you a link to the recording as well. And today our speakers are Steve Hooper and Corey Humrich. And then we also have Andy Fuhrman, who's here from HawkSoft, and they are going to be presenting the toolbar to you today. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Steve.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. Man, I had more hair in that picture. Thanks for coming, guys. Quickly, I'll just introduce myself, then flip over to Corey and Andy. I have been, I'm kind of new at this, so to speak. I've been an agency owner now for about 2.5 years. I had a long story, but I'll keep it very short. I purchased 2 offices, and one of them was on QQ Vertifor. One of them was on HawkSoft, which gave me a great opportunity to basically see where I wanted to go. I also looked at some other software, as I'm sure you all have, AMD 360 and on Easy Links, whatever. I selected HawkSoft back in the day. Very, very happy with it. And I'll just also like to reiterate on the Facebook side, I have learned so much on that Facebook site, the Hug Facebook site that Jennifer was talking about. So don't think I'm a 20-year veteran. I'm not, but I do really enjoy the system and I like making it really work well. So bear with it. I'm going to be the guy clicking on the buttons here. If a picture of my cat flashes up or something like that, bear with me and we'll get through it. Corey.
Yes, thank you, Steve. My name is Corey Humrich with Trust Hall Insurance. Just very happy to be here with you guys today. We've been with HawkSoft for about a year now, so we're new to this as well, and I've just jumped in and really enjoyed the system and enjoy learning and learning a bunch of stuff with everyone. So hopefully we'll make this fun and enjoy everybody's company. And Andy?
All right. Hi, and my name's Andy Fuhrman. I am a product support specialist here at HawkSoft. I've been here for about 5 years now. Actually, I just passed my 5th year anniversary. And, you know, love it here, love the culture. This is my very first Hug meeting. So please bear with me, but I'm here to, you know, answer and maybe interject anything that we need to add to the discussion, but it's mainly going to be discussed by Steve and Corey, and I'm just here in case if I'm needed. But it's nice to see you all, and thank you for being part of the HawkSoft family. We absolutely appreciate it.
Awesome, thanks, guys. Whoops. All right, so now let me get out of this, and this is the point where I screw it up, so bear with me, and we'll get over to HawkSoft. There we go. Get back into that, and we're set to go. And everybody can see that, I'm assuming? Yes? Okay, beautiful. I just want to throw out one other quick thing about HawkSoft. This isn't a pound the drum commercial in any way, shape, or form for HawkSoft, other than I will say this. The support, and I've mentioned this many, many times on the Facebook group, the support at HawkSoft is by far, if this was the crappiest software in the world, and it's not, but if it was, the support is, you know, 5-star, 10-star. And I can't get over the difference in particular, and I'm not going to start bashing other companies, but the experiences I've had with, for example, I won't mention the name, Vertifor, and how absolutely bloody awful, you know, it is. It's to the point where, and this is the first, I think the second time I've ever seen Andy live face-to-face, because we did a practice session 2 days ago. But I feel like I've known Andy for years because we talk all the time for support stuff, little things. Hey, how do I do this? How does that work? You cannot beat the support at HawkSoft. And I said it one time in a post, that's what brought me to the dance. So you're with a great company, and that's the end of my soapbox speech. And they didn't pay me to say that, by the way.
Well, no, our philosophy is we understand from a customer standpoint, there are probably 3 things in life that you guys don't like as a business owner, as a customer of ours. Don't like paying taxes, don't like going to the dentist, don't like calling product support. Our job is to make that last thing as easy as possible for you, whether it's with engagement, just listening in, helping out. If we don't know the answer, we will follow up and get you the answer. And that's our main goal.
I don't know if the last time you ever called the Bank of America, but when you've got a problem with your bank account, you have to set aside an hour of your day to, wait for a human being to come on the line. Whew. Right. But anyway, we wouldn't have that. We don't have those issues at HawkSoft. So moving right along, this topic today is the toolbar. And you look at this and say, what's kind of a simple topic? It's as simple or as complicated as you want. And that's one thing I've always found about HawkSoft. They wouldn't have asked me to do this if I didn't have an idea of what I'm doing. I think I'm I'll put myself in the middle category. I'm not an advanced user per se, but I'm very comfortable with the software. I've made it do a lot of neat things. Having said that, there is so much more in the software that you're going to find. And trust me, we could do this for 7 hours. We're not going to, but it's an amazing monster of a piece of software. So the intention here today, we're going to go from left to right on the toolbar. You are looking at my toolbar, but I really want to stress before we start this, we're going to go through the basics of what HawkSoft gives you, and everything else is what you want to make it. So I think this is going to be kind of an unusual webinar in that it's going to be very, I'm going to use the words interactive, because I can sit here and show you all my stuff. And you say, well, I don't want that. I want this. Well, you can do it. I like the way he did this, but I don't like the way he did that. You can change it. And that's what makes this toolbar really cool. One of the things when I'm watching a webinar, and I could watch a webinar tomorrow on, let's say, accounting. So I'm watching a webinar from HawkSoft or Hug on accounting, and they've got a screen up like mine, and I'm sort of listening to the accounting part, but I'm always looking at the toolbar to find out what the other guy is doing with his buttons. And it's not the first time I've ever actually gone back and said, hey, that was a great seminar on accounting. Woo! But what was that button you had over there on the top right? That looked really cool. And trust me when I say this, it's endless where this is going to go. So let's kick it off and get right to it. Starting at the left, the search button. I'm going to start here and mention a lot of people like mouse, a lot of people like keyboard. I have both users in my office. I can tell you that myself personally, I'm a keyboard guy. I'll do as little as I possibly can with the mouse. However, I've got people that like to use the mouse. So the thing with the toolbar is you can do exactly that. Have a lot of the functions that are automatic on your keyboard into your toolbar. And one of them we'll start with is search is, of course, F2. So you can hit it with the mouse, or you can actually just hit F2. I'm not going to spend any time actually on search. It's pretty basic. I think we're all pretty comfortable with how it works. But there is one little tip and trick in here I just wanted to throw out. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen. You have a client call up, you do something with them. You say, great, Steve, thanks very much. You hang up the phone. 4 hours later, you're going, what the hell is his name again? Steve. Ugh. And this is one of those ones where I discovered this little trick. I think it was online one day. If you ever need to search for someone by their first name, use the partial text search feature. And all of a sudden, every single client that you have in your office with the first name of Steve pops up. And I can't tell you how many times I've saved myself with that one. Other than that, I'm not going to spend much time on, or any time on search. I also want to stress that with the new version 5.0 coming out, the whole search functions are going to be changing anyway. So there's not a lot of point in spending time on that. Previous and next, very obvious. And I want to just show you, obviously, how this is going to work. I've got Mr. Honeywell here, and next up is Mr. Hooper. By chance, it's me. So when you hit next or previous, of course, it's going to go to the next person alphabetically in that list. We all know that. Thanks for sharing that, Steve. It's an amazing piece of technology. No, it's not. But I want to throw this one piece out here that you may not know. When you pull a report of any kind, and I've just got one here that I pulled really quick from my agency intelligence. Once you go into, for example, Mr. Barnhill, and I open up his file and I hit next, it is not going to go to the next person in alphabetical order. It's going to go to the next person in your list. That is a super feature, and a lot of people don't realize that. So just wanted to make note of that on next and previous. Okay. Next up is Scratchpad, and Mr. Corey's going to talk to you about Scratchpad.
Yes, definitely. Before we move on to this, does anybody have any questions on those first couple? If not, then we will move on. All right, so Scratchpad. Scratchpad is one of my favorite tools that HawkSoft has. So in our agency, what we've tried to do is we've tried to get away from pen and paper. And I like to use the computer as much as possible. So when a client calls, I will pull up a Scratchpad, just like Steve has just done. And then I will start talking with the insured, and I'll ask them, okay, you know, what's your name, what's your address, and put all of the information in there and keep it all right there. Now, the nice thing about a Scratchpad is you can open several of them. So go ahead and open another one, Steve. And you can see that another one opens and it's blank. So if you're on the call and, you know, you can have as many open as you want. Now, when you're done with one of them, so if he goes back to the one with me on there, then he would just basically copy all, and you can copy it and then place it in a log note. And so it's very quick and easy. It keeps it all there. Now, let's say at the end of the day, you haven't finished everything on that. You can also, as you can see, he's going to paste everything in there in the log note, and you're done. If you're not done with that one and you need to get it the next day, you can also go to File and you can actually save it on your computer, so you can come back the next day. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can save it as like a Word document. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you can save it as a Word document, and you can actually, you just leave it as all files, and it will save it to whatever, like a Word pad or a Word document or whatever it would be, but it would just open up as normal.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And so that's basically with Scratchpad. We really love it. I love being able to get in there, and then it stays on top of HawkSoft there. So, you know, it won't go behind unless you push the minimize button, and then it'll go down on your toolbar on your regular computer. So any questions on Scratchpad? I think we might have a raised hand from Melissa. Melissa, do you have a question? You can unmute if you have the question.
No, I'm sorry. It was from earlier. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Just wanted to make sure we got everything taken care of. All right. So that's Scratchpad. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Corey. Over to print. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of the session here, these buttons here are basically default buttons within HawkSoft. You cannot change them or alter them, but I will show you a little trick with Appetite a little bit later. Print. Print is one of those buttons that I can tell you personally in our agency we do not use a lot, but it is a powerful tool. So again, I'm not going to spend tons of time on it, but I wanted to show you a couple of quick features. Obviously printing, it's a way to print a COI. You can set up letters, proposals. One of the things that I do like in this one, and I have used it before, and it's not so much for an E&O situation, but basically, you know, imagine you're the manager or you're the owner, and the CSR comes to you and says, I got this guy on the phone and he's just brutal and he's screaming and yelling. Obviously you can go into the log files and read up of what's the situation with this guy. But as much as our office is paperless, I hate paper, I have done this one before where I've actually printed out all of the log notes for this particular person. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to give you a print or a PDF, and all of the log notes on that particular client are going to be saved out and or printed. So it's kind of a nice feature to just grab it and look at it. And again, you can find anything, all the log notes are dumped out in one location. You can scroll through everything, one policy or all policies. Basics of print, that's about it on that one. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we talked about mouse versus keyboard. If you're obviously using HawkSoft at this point, I can tell you, me personally being a keyboard guy, if I'm going to make a log note on a client when he calls in, you'll hear me pounding my keyboard all day long, enter IL. Or if I'm going to change Mr. Larry last name, me personally, I'm enter I, enter. I don't use the mouse for that. However, obviously for the most people, there's your action button. And the action button really is the key to this whole software as far as I'm concerned. Every action that we do within the software starts from the action menu. So what happened? You hit the button and you select the flow of how that particular item or update occurred with the client. So again, I don't think I need to beat up action too much, but this is the start of everything in HawkSoft. So it's either hit your enter button or you can click on the action button. Simple as that. Now let's get into website. Website is a super feature that we use all day long. And I'm going to show you an example right now. I have a client here, Mr. Last Name. He's such a great guy. He never complains. Wasn't that something you said, Jennifer? And he's got an auto policy with Dairyland on his 1973 Ford Pinto. And he calls me up and he wants to check something and say, hey, you know, can you change the policy? Can you endorse it with a new vehicle, et cetera, et cetera? So I'm going to hit website, and it's going to open up the browser. We'll talk about which browser in just a minute. And it's obviously, and I'll show you how, defaulted to Dairyland, but more importantly, I've also mapped it. So it's actually got my logins right here. So with one button and then click sign on, I'm now inside Dairyland under my code, and I've even got it mapped to bring up his name up in here. Now there is no last name, of course, in Dairyland, so hitting the magnifying glass is not going to do anything. But the point is, you can get in and out of the website so quickly to deal with your client using that website button. It's a tremendous feature. One of the other features that's phenomenal, and we're going to get to that when we get up to the payments, is this little camera. And I can't stress this one enough. If you've never seen this, if you've never used this, I'm going to show you how. Right now, you go in there and let's say you make a payment. Again, I'm not going to do it because I don't have a payment and I don't have a customer name, last name. But let's say you're now on the payment screen. Okay, we have received your payment. It's a cash payment, a sweep payment for $100. So it's a confirmation screen that has now come up. Perfect. Hit the camera. Pick your category. In my case, we use receipt, and click on attach. What does that do? Well, let's go over to my buddy Larry Last Name, go over to your attachments. I just created this, and it's telling me right there, obviously the category I selected, receipt, and guess what? It's a screenshot. Now, it's not rocket science, I know, but believe it or not, a lot of people don't use this feature. And another thing you can use it for is for example, endorsements. So let's say you're on a website and you do make the endorsement, you add BI, take off UM, and it comes back with a confirmation screen saying, okay, that has been successfully done. Take a picture of it, attach it right in.
Now, Steve, a question for you is what if I use Google Chrome in my agency, I don't see that little camera button. Is there a reason why I don't see that camera button? Yes.
And I'll tell you what, let's go right into programming that button right now, and then I'll explain the browser situation. So when you want the website, obviously you have to tell it to go to Dairyland. How do you do that? You're going to go up to your gear cog. You're going to go up to your policy company setup, and you're going to go to Dairyland. And on the tab that says company website, this is where you're telling it where to go when you press the website button. Okay, so put in your website here, put in your codes, and this is what you're going to map later on the screen, and that's going to tell it where to go when you hit the website button. To answer the question about the browser, you'll see here each website can have its own browser because certain websites, certain carriers require still, I can't believe it, Internet Explorer, for example. There are 5 different options, I think it is now. The camera appears on, and what we use in my agency is the Chromium Beta HawkLink, because HawkLink has the camera feature built in. If you use Chrome, this is straight Chrome. It's just like Chrome you're using at home. It's not going to have the camera. So we have, and that's why I've got it, as you can see, selected with default. All of my users are defaulted to Chromium Beta. What that also means is certain carriers will not work. This is not a HawkSoft restriction. This is a restriction of the websites. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Progressive, ASI. Every single time you go into ASI and you try and do it through HawkSoft, trust me, it won't work. And again, that's not a HawkSoft issue. That's the way they've programmed their website, and they've got the security settings set. So basically, if you got a problem with that, go yell at them. But most, I would say in my case, with the carriers we have, 75% of them we can get into using that website feature. And it's slick, and it saves us a lot of time. Did I answer that one?
Thank you.
All righty. Any questions on website? And I can't see the chat, Corey, so tell me if somebody has a question.
Yeah, I'm checking on it. I don't think so.
I don't see anything in there either.
Okay, thanks, fellas. All right, next one, client text. I think, again, this is the texting feature within HawkSoft, which is phenomenal. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. It's a sort of a subject within a subject, if you will. Nevertheless, there's one little feature in here that I want to show you just in case you've never seen it. And the feature is as follows. You are having a chat conversation with a client, and that client, and I'll just give you a workflow, for example, from my office. I'm not saying it's the best, but this is what we do. So a client calls up and says, hey, Steve, I've got 100, 300 BI right now. Again, I'm not licensed in other states. We're bodily injury, third-party liability. I don't know what they call it in Texas or Oregon, but 100, 300 BI. And they say, look, I'm really having some financial difficulties. I want to drop my BI limits down to 10, 20. Okay, I can do that for you, but I'm going to get a confirmation of it. I want a record that says this guy told me to do this. So what we do is we'll actually send out a text message. And I'll just show you very quickly. Again, I don't want to get into texting all day because this is a huge topic. But we have a template set up right here for a coverage change. So we're going to text that out to the client. Hello there. Yes, I agree. I would like to change the coverages on my policy. So we send that text out to the client. And of course, they must respond and say, yes, I agree. So once they've agreed, and again, bear with me, these are not exactly that. This is just an example. Now I've got the confirmation this guy wants to reduce his coverage. So how do I save that somewhere? Well, all I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this. And these are the three top, these are the conversation that I had with the client. And I'm going to attach to CMS. What this is going to do is it's going to save it into the client file permanently forever. So in 2 years, when this guy has an accident and calls up and all of a sudden we're in an E&O situation, it's right there. It's very, very simple to do. One of those features that I don't know that everybody uses. And if you follow me along, you just click on the name, click on next. This is the document we're going to save. Click on next. Which policy would you like to attach it to? I'm going to attach it to his Dairyland auto policy. Next. And I'm going to just name it permission to reduce BI. And in my categories list, I've created a category called chat history. So we're going to select chat history and we're going to click attach. But before I hit attach, I want to show you, I've got the tick box here defaulted that way. The reason I do that is because I want to make a note in the log file that I've done this. So now I'm going to hit attach and I'm going to put in a log file. Attached chat permission to reduce BI. Okay. Done. So what do we do? What do we accomplish with all this? Well, first of all, we've got a log note in here, 1328, attached chat permission. Oh, what's that all about? Now we go to the attachments, and there is my chat history with that particular client giving me the permission. So if they get into an accident and they're going to try and tell me that they never said that, guess what? There it is right there. So it's a really great E&O feature if you've never used that one. Other than that, Corey, did you want to jump in on this one here, or should we just move on from that one?
No, I think we're good unless we have any questions on it, but I don't think there's much on that one.
Okay, sounds good. If I'm going too fast, just jump in and yell at me. That's fine. I'm used to it. Appetite. Appetite is a button that we do not use very often in our agency, if at all, to be honest with you. And it's a feature that comes with HawkSoft. If you're a commercial agency, basically what Appetite is going to do for you is it's going to bring up the Ivans market appetite function. We're not commercial heavy. We do have some, but I'll be honest with you, I don't use this. I see no real reason to use it. It doesn't mean it's a terrible feature. It just means it's not something we're really using. So here's all the different appetites for that particular risk or class code that I just put in there. Okay, pretty cool. Again, honestly, we don't use it. So what I want to do is all of this real estate to me is very, very important. So what I do is I get rid of it. This is the only button that's a default from HawkSoft that you can make go away. And I'm going to show you how. Gear cog, user list, me, Steve Hooper, and here are my preferences. And right here, show Ivan's appetite button, I don't want to see it. So I'm going to make it go away. And by the way, since we're talking about it, on the right here, as you mentioned, there's my browser default. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. And all of a sudden, poof, my appetite button has gone away. I hate to say it's a make it go away, because it's somebody at HawkSoft spent a lot of time programming it, I'm sure. But unfortunately, we don't personally use it. So that's where we go with that one.
It's basically an out of sight, out of mind is what you did there. It's still there. You just can't see it. So
Correct.
You didn't delete it from the program. It's there. You just, if you never use it, never hurts to hide it.
Yep. Give me more real estate up here. That's what I want.
Right.
And again, if it was a function I was using every day, I would leave it showing, but we don't. Next up is manual. And I have a feeling that manual is one of those ones that a lot of people don't use. And I'll be honest, we and our agencies, I should say, as much as we're paperless, and we are, and I hate paper, we kind of default back to the old technology. We have a big old book with underwriting guidelines in it. When they update them, you tear that page out, you put a new page in. I also maintain an online, in a database, underwriting guidelines. So basically, if a new underwriting guideline comes out, I scan it, we put it into a directory that all of our users have access to, and then they stick it in their book. So the answer is, manual for me is not something we use. I don't think a lot of people use it, but maybe some will want to use it now that they know what it does. So I want to point out here, if you notice on the Dairyland tab, the manual is ghosted. And that's because I don't have it set up for Dairyland. I set up American Tradition as an example to show you what it does. So what does it do? Click on manual, and it's going to reach outside of HawkSoft into a directory or a location you tell it to, and it's going to pull up the underwriting, the underwriting guidelines. And there's the underwriting document for American Tradition. So it's good. It's a good feature. I don't know how to explain. We're paperless and yet we're still using old books, but it is what it is. How do you make it work if you want to use this feature? Well, back to policy company setup. Find the company you want to set it up for. And here it is right here. It's the manual command line. Basically, what you're going to do is click on browse and point HawkSoft to the location of that particular file. So in this case, if I remember correctly, this is a PDF that I have sitting outside somewhere. And I just told it, load this. Yeah, it's a PDF, load this when I click on that button. So that's how it's done. Is it something you can use? I don't know.
Now, would you recommend doing it to the website, or would it be better to print off the PDF and then have it on your computer somewhere?
And it's a good question. You can set this to look for a website. You absolutely can. What I found is that you normally have to log into a website first before you're going to get access to the underwriting guideline. So in other words, it's not going to let you go past that. So if you tell it to go to progressive.com/underwriting guideline, first thing it's going to do is hit you with log in with your password first. Now, maybe there's some other carriers that actually have it that are public documents, in which case you absolutely could point it towards them. Again, I personally have not seen that. I haven't used it in that respect, because most of our carriers require us to sign in first before you even get to see the underwriting guidelines. So what we did, like I said, I did it for a couple of the carriers and we really haven't used it much. Log in, download the underwriting guideline, put it in a directory, tell HawkSoft where to go get it, and that's it. So that's kind of how manual works. Okay. Questions on that one?
Doesn't look like it. Nope,
all right.
We're good.
Perfect. The next three buttons are fairly obvious, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. I would like to point out one thing, however. If you're going to cancel a policy, there's two ways to do it. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, truthfully. But one of the things that, again, I'm not sure a lot of people understand the difference of. Let's say you have bad data. And I've seen this before where I've got a policy that's active that was actually canceled a year ago. And for whatever reason, the download didn't come in, or somebody forgot to cancel it. Okay, all I want to do is I want accurate data. So in this particular case, I'm going to cancel Mr. Last Name's auto policy, and I'm going to hit the cancel button. No problem. But what I am going to do is, first of all, let's find out why. So let's say he moved out of the state. All right, he's gone. It's going to ask you the date and time, very simple. And here's the point where people I don't think understand. If you untick print cancellation form, what that's going to do is just cancel the policy in HawkSoft. That's it, nothing else, okay? If you have this ticked, you can actually type in right here, found insurance elsewhere. And then what is it going to do? It's going to pull up the cancel accord form. And more than that, it's also already put in your comments right here. And if you want to double check, I've actually seen carriers do this. Oh, we don't look at remarks. We want this. Okay, well, you can click on that and double click here, or click it there, found insurance. Oops. Good Lord. But you can do that. Of course, the next step is to print, send, attach. And in our case, usually we will send this out. We use DocuSign in our agency. So we're going to send it out to DocuSign. We're going to make the client sign here. We're going to have a date there and done. So that's the difference between ticking that box and not ticking that box. If you do, pardon me, if you do an e-signature on these things, and I'm sure you've seen them before, but very, very handy having the built-in e-signature feature of HawkSoft, and it works with many different e-softwares, excuse me, with DocuSoftware. So in my case, we're using DocuSign. I know that InsureSign, which is now FormStack, also works. And there's 2 or 3 others that I'm not familiar with that work very, very well. And it will log it right here and say, we just sent it out via eSign, okay? The great thing about that for us, what we do is we immediately will, and I didn't complete the function just for speed, but what we'll do is set the suspense. And when I set the suspense, as you'll see in here, I have a category for DocuSign. So basically, as soon as you send it out to DocuSign, a suspense will be set. Category DocuSign, go back a day or 2 later, oops, forgot to get that. Yep, there it is, send it to the carrier and you're done. So that's the cancel button and the difference between the check mark and no check mark. Reinstate and renew, again, I don't think there's much to talk about those two. They're very, very simple. Renew in particular, we use it all the time for carriers that don't download. In my particular offices, I would say 80% of our carriers download. We've got some MGAs that don't, we've got some commercials that don't. And of course, if you're in working a renewal, you just hit the renew and that'll take care of that. Any questions on those 3? Looking good?
Oh, wait, there might be, yeah, Priscilla.
Oh.
Looks like she raised her hand.
Okay, so
Priscilla,
her
are you
question, she doesn't
go
have a
ahead.
microphone. So basically her question is she does not have a microphone. She was curious if we can upload her own cancellation template.
Upload her own
If you can-
cancellation template. Into HawkSoft, I'm assuming we're talking about.
Into HawkSoft. Let me go ahead and play around with that here. So I'll go ahead and test it out on my Eddie example. I don't think that those use templates at all. So basically what it is that when you use the cancellation, it's either going to open up a cancellation form or it's not going to open up anything at all. So it's not set up like a correspondence template or like an email template. It's just hard coded in. You're either going to use one or use nothing. But that's a fantastic question.
Yep. Yep. And Andy's going to check that for us. I'm not aware that you can do that because, again, it's pointing directly at the accord form, which in theory all carriers want, which I've run into a few that say, oh, we don't take accord. How do you mean you don't take accord?
But I think too, Steve, I think what you could probably do as well is you could use the cancel button, not print off the accord form, and then you could go back in and make your own, like on, you know, if you have your own form that's filled out, and then you could fill that one out and send it to them, and then just link the logs if you wanted to.
Yep.
So there's a workaround to do it if you don't want to use the accord form.
That's an excellent workflow for that. You know, if I couldn't find an absolute answer, if I was fielding a call like that, I would say use that. That's the perfect workaround for it, Corey, to at least get by until we can talk to development and say, hey, is this a possibility? Do we need to make this as a future feature enhancement in a future version? That's a great question.
Yeah,
right.
And you know what? It's a really good point because, again, 85% of all the carriers will accept accord forms, but I have had the odd one, in particular, I'm going to say non-standard auto, that said, oh, you have to do it on our cancel form, which makes no sense whatsoever. But okay, so if I'm always going to pick a carrier, Gainsco, if they're only going to allow us to use the cancel form for that carrier, you know, maybe that's a feature down the road where we could tell it in policy company setup this is the cancel form for that particular company. So it could be something down the road for sure. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Go ahead and submit that feedback in the HawkSoft community. That goes directly to our development department, and they look at every single one, and they will also respond to it as well too, whether or not that they feel that it would be a viable piece or not. But just provide a business case when you provide that suggestion in there. If you say you just want it with no business case, they're not going to take it very seriously. So make sure that you put in the details on why you want it.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
Good question. Thanks. So now let's move into the customizable button section. And all of these buttons up here are customizable buttons that I've created. Again, they're not the greatest. There's lots of different options here. So I just want to show you a couple of them, and I want to show you how to build them. And then later on in this presentation, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different ideas. You know, oh, I use this one, Corey uses that one, Andy uses that one. Because this is endless, it really is, which is really cool. I roll my eyes a bit and saying it's endless, but it's endless, very cool. I really like this feature, as you can tell. So when you are creating a button, and we'll get to the creation process in just a minute, I want to hover over the top and I want to point out each one of these buttons, as the same as over here, generally speaking, is going to have a short description, a long description, and a keyboard shortcut for it. And as you can see on cancel, there's your, whoops, there's your long, hello, there's your long, there's your short, and then your Control C is your keyboard shortcut. And we'll get to that just a little bit. Now, the first three buttons that we use in our office, and actually, I forgot to delete that. I actually deleted that so we could build one. So I'm going to make another one. That's quite fine. So what these do, they are all the same function for our particular office. The only difference is the way that they're logged. So when we use these buttons, one of them is going to say mail from, one is going to say phone from, one is going to say walk in from. And we do that just, again, from an E&O perspective. If a guy walks in and gives us cash, did he mail it in? Did they phone us and give us a credit card? And again, billing itself is a whole nother topic. We've got that dialed right in. I'm very, very happy with the way that works. That'll be another topic for another day. So let's talk about the actual button, what it does, and the creation. Our first button here, walk-in payments, as you can see, it just, oops, yes, it's telling me it's already canceled. Thank you. All it's doing is it's bringing up the payment window, okay? But when we do a payment, and I'll do one just for fun, this guy just paid $1, and it was cash, and I'm not going to print a receipt, and I'm not going to email a receipt, and I'm going to click OK. Okay, simple stuff. It's just a receipt. We all do this all day long. But here's the difference between my buttons. One is going to say phone, one is going to say mail, one is going to say walk-in. So as you can see, that's logged with walk-in, okay? Now, oh, I also wanted to just throw out here too, if you haven't done this already, this is another great feature up here. Billing inquiry is the same function as website. So imagine a client walks in the door or a client phones us, even a credit card, says, hey, I want to pay my bill. Okay, I'm going to click on billing inquiry, which is the exact same function as website, which is also set up in, as we mentioned, policy and company setup. And that's going to take me out to the website. I'm going to have the same thing as I mentioned before, and I can make the payment right there and click my camera and all the other features we talked about previously. So I just want to throw that in there. If you've never used it, it's great, okay? So how do you make a button? That's our next topic. We're going to go to the gear cog, general configuration, action menu, customized toolbar. This is where you create all of this. And if you've never been in here before, it's very simple. I got a double in there I'm going to get rid of. It's very simple to use. And the action of the button is listed over on this side. So every button that we create, this is the action that we're going to request it to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that mail and I'm going to remove it because I meant to do that before the presentation. I apologize. And it's gone. And now we're going to recreate it. So how do we create a custom button? Gear cog, general configuration, action menu, custom toolbar. Let's create a new one. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you've got the name plus 2 text descriptions and a shortcut. So we're going to call this mail payment. So that's your title right there. Tooltip, mail payment tip short. mail, payment, tip, long. Blah, blah, blah. That's how you make it long. Shortcut key. If you want to set up a shortcut key for it, we don't use them almost never, but one thing that you need to know is that this particular list is all of the control functions that are available to you. So in other words, as you can see, Control C is used for cancel. It does not appear in this list down here. So if for some reason you want to have Control C to be a certain function, you have to remap it up here and change your cancel to something else for the Control C to appear in here. So we're going to call this Control G just for fun. Now, how do we make the button? Tell it what to do. It's so simple. Again, here's our action menu that starts everything in HawkSoft. And how do we do it? We're going to call it, in this case, mail from insured payment received. And are you sure that's what you want? Yes, I am. And of course, now we're going to load an icon for it because we want it to show it something. And these are, I believe, these are basic Windows icons. There are other ways I won't get into here today on how to get better icons. And I've done it. You can import or point it to a different area, but that's a little complicated. I'm not getting into that today. So let's pick this, and we'll pick this icon right here. Pick one, Steve. There we go. There's our icon. So mail from insured payment received. Again, all we're doing here, and this is so critical, is we're mimicking what we do on the keyboard or with the mouse and making it a button. Simple as that. So any function you do today in HawkSoft, basically any function, can be mimicked right here. So we're going to click OK. Mail payments, and all the rest of this is the basic Windows operating functions. We don't need to get into this too much, but I'm going to move it up here because I want it in my payment section. Okay, now it's up there. And these separators, also you can mention that. Separators can be added anywhere you want, and you can move them around. All very basic stuff. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, click OK. Bottom line, there's my new button. It is now in there. So all we're doing is clicking the button, and it is doing the function I asked it to do, which is bring up the payment screen. And it's going to be logged as a mail, M-A-I-L, done. And as I mentioned, hovering over the top, there's your descriptions that we put in when we set the button up. So we've got our mail, our short, we've got our long, and we've got our keyboard shortcut there. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
Oh, hold up real quick. We got a question from Kim. If Kim, you want to unmute yourself, you can ask your question. She raised her hand. Kim, are you there? Oh, all right. She's not. I'll see if she'll put it in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. So now that we know how to create one, I'll show you some of the other ones that we use. And this is the fun part, as I mentioned at the beginning of this thing. You can make this thing do anything you want. It's incredible. We do a lot of invoicing. Not a lot, but we do a fair chunk of it with our commercials and our MGAs and all that kind of stuff. I like to have that button right there. And all it does is bring up your invoice screen. So if you've ever done an invoice, it's right there. Simple as that. Back here on the action button, we talked about keyboard and mouse and the difference, and some people like this and that. Well, this is where I built some buttons here for people that don't like the keyboard or prefer to use their mouse. And I have a couple of them that actually prefer this. Me, I will never in a million years touch these buttons. Trust me. You'll hear me beating up my keyboard all the time. In fact, my girls, they always laugh at me and say, God, are you gonna like destroy that keyboard? I'm a keyboard guy. And the louder and the noisier it is, the better I feel. But anyway, this is what they use. So change is very simple. As I mentioned, a change, if I'm going to change the client, it's enter, I, enter, right? On the keyboard, boom, that's it. It's always giving you that warning. And there it is. I'll go to a policy that's not going to do that all the time. Log note, enter, I, L. That's a standard keyboard. Everybody does that all day long. Boom. Well, some of the girls like that with a mouse. So there you go. Just draws up that. COIs, we do, again, I know there's a lot of agencies out there that are pure commercial. We are not pure commercial, but I would say of the commercials that we do have, we actually have a fair chunk of artisan landscaping, construction, that kind of stuff. And we do a fair chunk of COIs. So rather than go through the keyboard, the workflow, if you will, the action menu, I just built a COI button. Boom. There it is. I'm not going to get into building a COI, how to do a COI. It's so simple. This is just such another great feature of HawkSoft. If you have not done COIs that are built into HawkSoft, email me. I'll show you. It'll take about 14 seconds. I ran into an office the other day. This is a true story. It's a HawkSoft office. And I watched this woman. She pulled up a COI, basically in a Accord form, and she's filling it out in pen, la, 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 la. And I looked at her and I said, why? What are you doing? And she said, well, you know, I mean, and to be fair, she's an older school person. She's been doing it for 100 years. And I showed her how to do a COI in HawkSoft. And she said, "You changed my life," was the way she described it.
Time saver.
Oh my God, it's great. And this has nothing to do with the toolbar, but for anybody who's doing COIs, just remember the COI is only as good as the data you put in. So in our case, with the majority of our commercial stuff, it doesn't download. So if you don't actually input the coverages in here manually the first time, trust me, it doesn't work. You got to have it into HawkSoft the first time. The other thing I'm going to throw out here, nothing to do with toolbars, I'm sorry, I'm turkey trailing, but this is really key, is when you're doing a cert, know how to do our particular workflow, know how to put that person or that cert holder into your database, GearCog. Right here is your cert holders database. How did I get off on the commercial stuff? This database, you get a call from someone, and I'll just give you an example. We're in Melbourne, Florida, and I get calls daily for, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do a project for the city of Melbourne. I have put it in here one time. I've got the email set up for this guy, this particular department. And if you do it one time, you're done. Next time you do a COI, bam, put it out to them, everything's done. So our workflow is, if they call for a cert, it goes in the database first, then you issue the cert. It may be one of those weird ones you never ever use again. It could be, you know, just a private person, Steve Hooper, and you got a guy coming in doing carpet laying or something like that, and I'll never use it again. But the fact that it's there, if you need it down the road, it's there. Awesome.
Now you can, Steve, you can do it from the COI as well. If you're in there, you can pull up that database and put it in from that. So if you don't know if it's in there, you can always search for it first, and then if it's not there, you can actually include it from here.
And that's
so if you go to edit or add or whatever.
Yeah, this is the new. Okay, yeah, and that's
then you can
saved in the database automatically.
Right. Then if you do lookup, then if the lookup will go to that little database there, and then you can find the certificate holder. If it's not there, you can add the new right there.
There it is. Yeah.
And then you can put a new one in, and then that way you don't have to go to the database first. So, just another quick little tip if you want it.
And that's how we do it. Other than the new part you just mentioned to me, which we have been going to the database. So that's a good one to know. I didn't realize you could do it right here. You see, every freaking day, there's always something new in this thing.
Saves you time from backing out when you're already buried in an Accord form. You know, it's like
exactly.
So hard to say, gosh, I forgot to add that in. They got to back out and do all the work all over again. This is a feature where you just access the additional interest database and throw it in, and then it's there. It's a great feature.
Awesome. Right. There you go. Appreciate that one. Yeah, I gotta look at my workflow and change it. Thanks, Corey. Awesome. Last button, or second to last button, Accord forms. This is one that we use not very often, but again, just save you going through the action menu. We use this one here. It basically, and I'll give an example, 125s and 126s when you're doing apps, there it is. If you've never used an Accord form in HawkSoft, and again, I've run into a lot of people that have told me they didn't even know that Accord forms were built in to HawkSoft. It's incredible. And once again, I repeat, if you're filling out a 125 in HawkSoft, if your data is good in your HawkSoft system, guess what? It pre-fills everything for you. So the old days of filling out the 125 and 126 for commercial stuff and spending 27 hours and, you know, smoking 6 cigarettes while you do it, they're gone. as good as your data is. Of course, smoking is a bad habit. I didn't say that.
Well,
But anyway.
Here's another thing that I can go ahead and point in too. Not
Sure.
every single Accord form inside of HawkSoft is floodable because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of Accord forms in there. We got a majority of the most frequently used Accord forms that will flood the information in. But if you feel like that there are some other Accord forms that your agency specifically uses that does not flood in the information, call into product support, let us know what Accord form number and what version of the number it is and what you would like for it to flood in, and we can make a suggestion. And then you can just tell us, hey, I do 10 Accord forms a week and I just got one person doing this specific Accord form and it takes them a total of X amount of weekly hours. We're big in the time savings. So if you want a specific Accord form to flood in the information and it's not doing it, call us, let us know. We can provide that feedback and get it available.
Beautiful. Yep. And being in Florida, we do have the odd FL Accord form. I've yet to run into one that is not in HawkSoft, but I'm sure there's probably one or two. So we've done very well in that respect.
Right. Just let us know, because it's almost impossible to keep up with literally hundreds of Accord forms that are changing with versions on what needs to be flooded and what's not. You know, we're big, but we're not that big in our development department.
Perfect. Last programmable button we use in our office is the export to Raider. I really like this. This is obviously for auto and home. And again, I repeat, whatever you put into HawkSoft is what's going to export out. If you're garbage in, garbage out, it's not going to work. So we do an export to Raider. We use QuoteRush here for home. We use EasyLinks for auto. And I've built these bridges, and I'll touch on that just very briefly. And that's it. It's done. So the keyboard shortcut here is export to Raider, and you'll note that it also logs it down here. Okay, it's already gone out to EasyLinks. If anybody has not built a bridge, I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but just very quickly to show you, here cog, bridges, and the majority of the software you're going to use is right here. It's that simple. So in this case, we use EasyLinks to upload to it, boom, and it's going to build it for you. You're going to have to set a path, tell it where to go, and a couple little things. Basically, this is a string that's telling you user. So what happens is my export is called sho.xml because SHO is my sign-on initials here. But again, not to spend too much time on bridges. It's very simple to do, and we have made it very quick by using the shortcut button. Simple as that.
Yeah, and for your bridges, we have fantastic training or help articles in there that walks you through step by step on how to do it. But if you don't know how to set up a bridge, give us a call. We can remote in. We can help set it up and test it for you.
Beautiful. All right, that is the end of the programmable buttons for now. Next up is going to be external tools. This is fairly short and easy. Before we leave the buttons, is there any questions on this stuff? And again, I repeat, we're going to talk about all this stuff at the end of the session, so don't think you have to ask your question now. But is there anything quickly before I leave the buttons?
I don't think so. I can just tell you kind of some that I use in my agency, just so that you can get some more ideas. One of the ones that I have is we do replace policy. And basically how we mapped it here is the action menu is internal, change policy status, and replaced is how we do that, that little, what do you call it, the little button. So, and the reason we do that one is because that way we know that we've replaced it and we've kept it inside the agency, and we just rewrote it somewhere else. And then we also have one for rewrite. So if we do a rewrite, we do the same thing, internal, duplicate, remarket policy, and then it basically puts the skeleton of the policy on the new one, so you don't have to fill in all the information again if you're just switching it to a new carrier. Does that make sense?
What was your action on that first one, Corey, just to do it very quickly?
The first one was internal, change policy status, and replace. So go down to cancel. That one, replaced.
Gotcha.
And then you can say why it was. It could be price. It could be, you can program those ones as well if you wanted to.
And I like just to throw this out there. This is a very, very good point. We could put in a button that every time we do this, it's going to say price or risk change or whatever. In this case here, I'm going to stop because I want it to come to this point. and then I want the user to select. Okay, so internal, change policy, status, replaced, done. And I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click again, OK.
Yep.
And where did it go?
It's
up at the
on
top.
There it is. Okay, I did it very, very quickly. So here's my button. I didn't even do an icon for it. But the point is, there it is, and it takes me straight to that now pick, as compared to having it pre-programmed to pick for you. So very, very simple to do.
Yep. So then the question that Kim had, there is a limit on the buttons. You can only have 14 buttons is what you can program. And that's with, I believe that's with your buttons and your external tools that we're going to go over here shortly. So you only have 14 options. And then does the separator take up a button space? No, it doesn't. So
good question.
Those were two things with Kim. Mm-hmm. And then one other, Kelly was stating that her favorite in the agency is correction button, and it takes you right into the client's name / address info, so you can easily update, add, change phone numbers, emails, etc. So she made the change button just like that one right there that takes you right into the screen. So there's multiple possibilities that you can do. It's whatever you can think of. If you're using it a lot, just want to make sure you think of those and what keystrokes you're using, and it makes it quicker to just touch the button than go through the action menu. Absolutely.
And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to flip it back over, and what we're going to do, pardon me, Jennifer, we're going to talk about, this is the part that's really cool. We've already just shared a couple. Corey's bounced a few back and forth. I know Andy's got some. He's worked with clients on, HawkSoft clients on. Mm-hmm. What we're going to do is we're going to have a depository, if you will, of where to put your ideas. Now, we do have a document that's already available in the HawkSoft user group, but I really want to expand on this thing, and Jennifer can speak to that later. So definitely at the end of this thing, we're going to talk about other ideas, because if you're sitting there pounding the same buttons every day, this is going to save a lot of time for you. And I'm turkey trailing again on templates, but also the templates, we use templates for texting messages, emails. I've got just a ton of that stuff. All of this stuff is programmable in HawkSoft, and you can make it do what you want. So time saver, time saver, time saver. Speaking of time saver and everybody falling asleep, let's go to external tools. The first external tool here is Outlook. I won't get into this too much. Andy's can talk a little bit about this, but the bottom line is in our agency, we pay an extra, I think it's $2 per person. I have 5 seats that we use, and I believe, don't quote me, it's $15 a month extra. And what that allows us to do is have Outlook built right into HawkSoft. Now, remember, if you're on the online version of HawkSoft, you're basically working in the HawkSoft environment. And what I love about this feature is that we can just drag and drop. We can drag and drop attachments, drag and drop emails. Anything you want can be dragged and dropped straight from Outlook. And I'm going to get to that in just a sec. How long as you can see, we played the other day with some Excel and some other things here. I'm going to hold off on those for just a minute, and I want to go to websites. So let's start from the very beginning. How do you create an external tool, and what is the purpose? Now, in our case here, I'm going to show you on a homeowner's, and the address of the location is here. It doesn't exist. It's a test person, obviously. And I'm going to show you what BCPAO does, Brevard County Property Appraisers. This is an external website that we use all day long, and it allows us, of course, to go in and check the home and see when it was built and what features it has and blah, 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 blah. The nice thing is it is built into HawkSoft, and as you can see, I have mapped it so that the address drops right into the website. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is not going to work because there's no such thing as College Avenue South, but I'll give you an example of this website, Dixie Highway. This is where I live. And of course, hit search. And I know everybody has the same feature somewhere. This is my condo complex, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, having these features is so simple and so easy to reach out to get other details you may need. Driver's license check. This is a Florida driver's license check website. So if I'm not sure on this guy, does he have what we call an SR22 or an FR44? You can input the guy's driver's license. I also have this map so that when you're on an auto policy, it will actually map and put in his driver's license. Now I'm lost. There we go. And it'll actually input the driver's license there for you, and you just click on enter and it'll bring up all of his information. So this is a function make no mistake that regardless of what state you're in, it's totally customizable. Yes, I'm showing you some Florida stuff, but you can obviously figure some stuff out for Texas or wherever you are that you're going to use all day long. How do you make an external tool? Simple. Gear cog. Computer specific settings. And that's important to note. And we're going to go to the external tools tab and we're going to create. I'll show you a new one. So here's our tools that I've already got set up in here. Let's make a new one. So I'm going to call this Andy's fun stuff. No, I'm not getting weird on you. Don't worry.
You're fine.
Short description, long description, same as all of our other buttons. And our command is going to be, there you go.
There you go.
Now, as you can see, of course, I've got too many buttons in here now, but I do have, that's my button over there. And if I ever get, I'll have to get rid of Corey's thingy.
Oh, man.
I hate when that happens. There's Corey's thingy, remove, and click OK. There we go. So here's the external tool that I just created. I'll do it again to show you. It's very simple. Click on it. Where's it going to go? It's going to take us to a website that I happen to make for the WWF, just for fun. So there's our website. One button, so easy to do, and the customizing is endless and endless. So one more time, how do you make it? Gear cog, computer specific settings, external tools, create a new one. I don't know. Website, descriptions, long description. God, I can't type today. And boat.com, whatever. Now, these three boxes down here, this is something to take a note of, and it's kind of handy. And I, to be honest with you, we were doing this session on Tuesday, and I learned again. You learn every day doing this stuff. What is what? So show on toolbar obviously means we're going to show the button up here. Show on the external tools menu. That means down here, as you can see, Andy's fun stuff, or Corey's boat. I'll put it in there in just a moment. The quick launch panel. No, I said that wrong, didn't I? External tools is up here. I beg your pardon.
That's correct.
We're going to put that there. Thank you. External tools is here, and I'll pull that down in just a minute. Quick launch panel is here. Show on toolbar is here. What does that mean? It means that if you're running out of real estate up here in your toolbar, you can still put things in there, but you don't have to show them. So because I'm running out of real estate up here, I'm going to create this new one, and I'm not going to show it on the toolbar, but I am going to show it in quick launch and external tools. So there it is on the quick launch. There it is on the external tools pull down, but note that it's not there. So that just saved me some real estate up here in the toolbar. Good news is, if it's one you don't use very often, you can just stash it away down there, but it's still available to you. Click on it, boom, it'll load a website. I hope there's a website called boat.com. That's
probably not. Well, maybe it is.
Well, let's see. Oh, there you go. Should be flipping to our website for insuring boats is what it should be doing. So
there is one thing here to remind everyone about is when you do the buttons that we talked about earlier, that's a global change for the whole agency. These external tools is for each individual computer. So each one of your, CSRs or whatever can all enter in whatever websites they want to go to, or if they want to get, all these different external tools they can use separate from what other people in the agency use.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. It's specific to the computer.
Really critical. When I first, again, we're going back to almost I guess I've been doing this 3 years now. And when I built the BCPAO one day I was sitting there at 7 o'clock at night going, well, this is pretty neat software. And I built the BCPAO one, and one of my girls came in the next day into my office and saw it. And oh my God, that's great. So I had to literally go around to every single computer in the office. Yep. We only have 4 producers, but again, I had to build it on their website, which again, as you saw, it takes about 30 seconds, so it's no big deal.
And I also think there was a good question that came through from Jennifer Nash. She asked on the group chat, why instead of just using the website, why would you do the external tool? And Kelly said that it was because when you're doing the website button, it takes you specifically to the carrier. But when you do an external tool, it can take you outside of the carrier to another website.
Yep,
so
absolutely
that's
correct.
the difference. That's why you would use that feature.
Yep, the answer is, as Corey mentioned, website and billing inquiry are set up and default in your policy company setup. So that's where you're going to set it up, and it's going to know where to go from here.
Right.
Using an external tool is going to be anywhere else you want to go, as we showed, for example, WWE, which I don't recommend CSRs do because you're paying them to watch wrestling. But that's the difference. External tools can go anywhere, whereas a website is directly linked to the company setup. And there's one point I forgot to mention on this, and I'm going to just mention it right now because it just came into my mind as we were talking about this. When you pull up the website, and in my case, I have 2 offices, and I have a different code for each office. Okay, so if you run into this, and this person is set up as a West Melbourne client, I also have an office called Merritt Island. Merritt Island is a totally separate code, totally separate login, totally separate everything. So what triggers HawkSoft to point you to the correct website and give you the correct logins is agent code. Really important. So when you're over here, policy company setup, into Dairyland, there's my website. This is the trigger for your mapping for when it logs you into the website. The website's the same, we know that. But the login to make sure you get the correct book of business is all happening from here. And it's triggered by that. I bring this up because I've seen my girls do this before. If they put in the wrong code when they build the file, so for example, it's a new client, he just found a policy, and by mistake, they choose the wrong code in HawkSoft, trust me, it will log you into Dairyland and log you into the wrong book of business, and you can't find that client. So very important to make that connection. That code is this one here, which puts you into the correct book of business. And there we go. ¿Qué más? Andy, do you want to touch on the Excel, Outlook, and Chrome side of the world like we talked about the other day?
Sure, absolutely. So what it is I also wanted to point out that when you create an action item toolbar menu, that is a global button available for all of your users. And like Steve mentioned before, when you're creating external tools, those are user specific. And so we try not to, we don't want to get those mixed up, that if you create an external tool, it's going to be visible for everybody. It will not be. External tools are just for the user who's logged on specifically for them, but the action item toolbar menus is global for everybody to be used in the agency. And we have, I think, Corey, did you and Steve both receive my email about my quick little sheet on what you can program in external tools on like the certain functions and whatnot?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sure
So
did.
these were the ones that I was able to figure out, and I verified that with the rest of my development department. But you can put in things that are programs like Excel and Word and DS Pro, PowerPoint, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, and OneNote, and you can have those available. Word and Excel and Outlook are, if you're an online customer, I think that you have to purchase the Microsoft Office package with us in order for those to work, or else if you're not buying those, then if you create an Excel button, it's not going to look like the Excel icon. It's just going to be a piece of paper, and you're going to be banging your head finding out why you can't get Excel to open. So those are important. But instead of using the website drop-down option, you want to choose program when you're creating those. But if you're trying to, oh yeah, great, Steve, thank you so much. See how it has program under the tool type. If you're using one of these specific programs, you definitely want to change the tool type to program rather than website, because naturally Excel is not a website. It's an actual program.
There's your Outlook.
Yep.
And there's a Chrome, just a straight Chrome browser, should you need it.
Right, should you need it. Now, what I have discovered that some agencies don't like using the website button. I strongly recommend that you use the website button, but if you want to put your carrier websites up into the external tools, we suggest that you make either a Chrome browser or an Internet Explorer browser, and then once you have one of those browsers open up, then put those carriers in as your favorites. Different workflows for different agencies, but that's what I have discovered with some of these nice external tools. You can even have them pointed to local files or folders. If you need to just quick click, and let's say you had like a scanned folder that was saved somewhere in your network, you can even create a folder in there that'll just browse directly to that folder. As long as you put in the correct command and initial directory, you can do that too. So if you want, we can go ahead and set one up. If Steve, you want to show us an example of like maybe like a photo album or some Word documents that you have stored in a file somewhere, yeah, that'd be perfect.
We could build one if you want me to. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to go ahead and do that, and we'll just show you how easy and neat it is. So all you would have to do is just browse to. Let's go ahead and close out of this, and then get to your local desktop, please.
Alrighty. And get to my local desktop.
Right.
There we go.
Okay. So is there like a specific folder that you have where you have a bunch of like Word documents in or anything like that?
Let's go into Joe Bonamassa's latest album just for fun.
Okay, perfect. So if you wouldn't mind clicking on the address bar where it says Joe up there, just single click on that. We want to find out what that path is. So if you wouldn't mind just right clicking and copying that path.
Okay, I did a Control C, but yeah,
okay,
got it.
Perfect. Now let's go back into the external tools and we'll create.
I'm a computer guy, or a keyboard guy, remember?
Yes, exactly.
External tools.
We choose new, and then from here, name your tool whatever you want to name it. So let's go down into the command line. You can leave it as program and just go ahead and paste in what you have. But since you're an online customer, what we got to do is go to the very beginning of that command, and we need to delete a few things. So go ahead and delete the C and the colon, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay, and then what you want to do is use 2 backslashes, which is the key right below your backspace button. Okay, and then you want to type in the word TS client. That's Tango Sierra client. And then another backslash, and then C. The reason why we're doing this is because if you do C colon, you're still in the HawkSoft environment, and the HawkSoft environment does not have a C drive. So pointing this to TS client means that it's going to your local C drive, and that's how we're putting that in there. And so now
Andy, is this different from clients that are online with HawkSoft and those that are in-house?
The ones that are in-house, you would just copy that path and throw it in there as is, because your local HawkSoft will see your local drives. This one here, we just haven't figured it out because our HawkSoft online environment has an H drive where all of your HawkSoft files live. There's a Y drive where your Ivan stuff lives, and there's an I drive where all your images live. And so we try to separate those so we're not confusing HawkSoft and turning it sideways.
As long as we know that, because I know I'm in-house and I can just copy because I've done this before.
Right.
And I just copied the path of the file, and I didn't have to take out that part in the front for the C drive. So just so that you guys know that you can, if you're in-house, you just copy it, and then you could just go from there and not have to do this way because he's not online.
Right. Yeah. If you have your own local server, then the way that we did it before we deleted the C colon is perfect. Then what you want to do is just go ahead and hit your tab button, Steve, and then what it should do is pre-fill in the initial directory. And basically, it's going to have everything up into the point where the final destination folder is. Now, if you click on OK, and it should have created a folder. So go ahead and hit OK again.
Yep, we're good.
And then if you click on that Joe folder up there in the upper right-hand corner, what it does, it'll open up that folder right there for you, and now you have it.
Very nice.
We
now,
use
before
this
too,
tool a lot.
just a reminder, just want to bring up, you can use that test feature. So there's that test. So when you were back in that setting it up, if you want to make sure you're going to the right path, you can actually test it before you actually say OK.
Right.
So that's another little trick for you as well, so you don't
I'm a
bang
little
your head
old
against the
school
wall.
myself because I was trained by some of the former managers here that did things the old way. And so for testing purposes, I always create it, get out, and then test the actual button. The test now button is great for that, but I'm a little bit more old school and I want to make sure that, that darn button works up there at the top. And that's just
There you
me.
go.
Very nice. All right. Well, thanks for that, guys. Thanks, Sandy. That's
Yeah.
great. And I've never actually done that one myself. So there you go. I just learned something else again.
No, it's a really, really
It's
cool feature.
endless, this thing, my Lord.
It
Yeah.
is, especially if you have like a scanned document folder that where you just scan
Nice.
everything, and then you're tired of, especially for single or monitored users. If they don't have two monitors, they have to minimize HawkSoft, open up this folder, and then copy it and paste it in. This gives them the opportunity to click on that folder, drag and drop to where they need it to be without having to do a lot of clicks.
And just so you know, what you're looking at is my HawkSoft directory. And I do it all day long. And you just taught me a trick because I'm going to put the damn thing right there. And I'm never going to do what I just did again, ever again. So that is, thanks. You're the man.
Glad to help.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much the end of where I'm at anyway. Have I missed anything, guys? Corey, Andy, do you want to check questions, punt it back over to Jennifer? What do you think here?
Jennifer just asked a question here where what external tools is everyone else creating? So I think this is kind of like what a census is. What is all of our listeners using right now? I'd love to know this too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we could probably do is raise a hand, and then if anybody wants to chime in, you can unmute yourself. Looks like we got Kelly. You can go first.
I'll see if I can get everybody going here. I actually, because of my role in the office, I do a lot of the commission reconciliations. So I create the reports where I go, and if any websites that I have to go get the commission statements from, I use those there. We also have my programming for my telephone system. I have an external tool there.
Oh, I like that too.
And then like crash reports, B&B, I have that out there as well.
Awesome, thank you.
That phone system is great.
Else?
I love that. And I have the same thing with our phone system. And, I'm the only one that has it on my laptop. And that, guess what? I got hit by a bus the other day. The girls need to know how to do it. And they always come in and, we always do it. But that's a great idea, Kelly. Thanks.
Look, is that Nicole?
Michelle.
There you go.
Close enough.
Michelle, sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so we do two things. First of all, we don't use the website button too much. So I have an external tool that goes to like an Excel sheet that has all of the company password list, if you will, because they change so frequently. So every time I update it, all I have to do is go to that external tool and find those passwords. And then also we do a lot of contractors' license and permit bonds for all the different cities in our area. Some require bonds, some don't. So I have a list that does that city require a bond or don't they? So you can go right to that list and see, yes, it requires it, and then you know to go and create the bond.
Awesome.
Hey,
You just gave me another great idea, Nichelle. Thank you. The password master. We use the website button all day long in our agency, but you just brought up a good point that I failed to mention is whenever a user changes the password, it's, whatever, Steve Hooper 29 and it's got to be reset. Okay, we probably like everybody would make it Steve Hooper 30 or whatever you're going to do, but we have to update the master sheet and you have to update HawkSoft. If you fail to do that, your website button's not going to work.
There's a new feature on that there now.
Yeah.
There's a new feature that came out in 4.7 where there's actually a checkbox in the policy company setup that says update the password when prompted to from the website, and it will update it inside a policy company setup now.
Oh, that's nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you go in there, we can see it too if you would like, Steve. Just go into policy company setup. Yeah.
Teach me, Obi-Wan.
Sure, you got it. Just open up any carrier that you want and then go to the website tab. And then there's going to be an update right there.
Yep.
So we receive feedback on that one because, different carriers want you to update your password quarterly, monthly, yearly, however often it is. It got to be a real big bear to update it directly in here. So we came up with this feature. So that way it just pings it, throws in the new password in this list. So that way it's one less thing for you to worry about.
obviously if it's changed externally and somebody's logged into a website externally, it's not going to capture it in HawkSoft.
Right.
But if you do it,
Correct.
yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I did too, honestly.
Yeah.
Until it came up.
Good stuff. Any other
Anybody
questions
else
out there?
have any?
I see another one in there from Candace. It says we use email MES a lot as well as claim. I don't understand that question.
I think she's just saying that's what buttons that they use. They'll use a button for email, and then it, I think, directly goes out to like where it brings up an email in HawkSoft. So it's a button. I don't know if it's the external tool per se, but it's probably a button that you can push.
Perfect.
And she just confirmed that's correct. And same thing with the claim. So probably map the button where it says claim, and then you can pull up like internal or phone from insured, and then have the claim button there to report the claim.
These are good buttons.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very nice.
All right.
I just got 3 new ideas for 3 buttons just sitting here talking to all these people, and I'm the guy that's supposed to be the presenter. This is great. Well, Jennifer, is there anything else that we've forgotten? Anything you want to wrap up on here?
Yeah, I think why don't we pop over to the HUG website, if you don't mind, if you could open up a browser and go to the HawkSoftUserGroup.org. And so this, we're going to, I think you got an extra B in there, yeah. There you go. This is where we're going to just talk a little bit about member-only content. So you do have to log in order to see what we're going to see today. So you go to your login, and up above it says create one here if you don't have one already. But go ahead and log in, Steve. And if you go under the menu that says resources members only, and go down to, let's do the knowledge library first. And search on hot buttons. Search on the word hot buttons. There you go, right there. And then scroll down a little bit. Let's hit enter. So we did do a webinar previously on hot buttons, and this was, so there's a document out here. It's a PDF document that shows, when you click on the PDF link, it'll open it up in your browser. And here's some other ideas for hot buttons, for renewal, for cancellation, payment. So if you're looking for some other ideas, and again, as Steve mentioned at the beginning, this is all customizable to your own agency. So just because this is what they were using doesn't mean you have to, but it gives you a few more ideas. And then if you want to close out of this document, and we'll go back to the external tools, go back to the resources member only. We're going to go back into the template library this time, CMS templates. And you'll see we have a button that says external tool templates. And this is kind of where we're hoping that if you have ideas for external tools, that opens up a spreadsheet in your browser. This is not something you can't add to the spreadsheet, unfortunately. I wish I could just let people type it in. But if you have an idea, what you can do is send it to me at info@HawkSoftUserGroup.org, and then I can update this external tool. And so this is not something you can just go and copy and paste everything into your system, but at least it gives you ideas and it gives you a command line so that if you are interested in doing any of these kind of buttons, you could know how to set it up at your computer real easily. And so we're just looking for, if you have ideas and want to contribute to things that we can put in here about external tools, just drop me an email and we'd be happy to update this.
Very good.
And I think that's pretty much it. Let's do a last check. Anybody got a hand up, or do we have any, nope, no hands up and no extra chat messages. So we're going to wrap it up today. And I wanted to thank Corey and Steve and Andy for being here and doing the presentation. And just so you guys all know, Steve and Corey are volunteers who are doing this on their own time. So we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. And Andy for popping in and giving us your expertise as well as a HawkSoft expert.
Sure.
And finally, we will be receiving an email immediately following the webinar that'll have a survey. So we encourage you to go out there and help us give some feedback on this. And then finally, we will give you another email later on today or early tomorrow with the recorded webinar link. And thank all of you for joining us as well. And we hope to see you sometime in person in the future.
Soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Appreciate
Yeah,
you, everybody.
bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks.
All right.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.